Shout out to KotaKod as well as who he helped build this venue. Another amazing creative and friend of mine. Let's give up some confetti for both of them. So much talent in one place. That's why I love the metaverse. I'm honored to be in the position I'm in here in Horizon. Proud to call this place my home, and a lot of the people in here my family. I've been on this platform for a little over 3 years, and a little about me for those that don't know, I'm 22 years old. I go by the artist name The Coda. I'm born and raised in Minnesota, but truly I'm a singer, songwriter, poet, rapper, world builder, visual artist, philosopher, and motivational speaker. That starts tonight, y'all. Um, but there's nothing I love more than music on top of all those things. I've been a music artist for 6 years. It's evolved so much over that time and turned into something much greater than myself. These past 2 years, I've taken a lot of time to be alone with my craft. Honestly, I feel I've learned so much from my journey with creativity that I wanted to organize an event where I can share my experiences with some of my creative friends on stage for all to see and learn from. So a few things we ask before we get into this. Please get your notes ready. Feel free to come and go as you please, but do not disrupt the experience in any way when you do so. Please mute yourselves for the respect of the people around you. And also, please save any questions, but think of a few as we're going to answer 4 audience questions at intermission halfway through the show, which will be in about an hour or so, we're hoping. And let's just make this an atmosphere where people feel welcomed with kindness, where creativity can move, and where connection is inevitable. I'm really just excited for all the things we have planned for this event. We have 6 more weeks of nurturing your creativity after this. And next week's guest is already locked in, so stick around till the end to find out who that is. Today, we will be covering a simple question and all of the topics that revolve around this one simple question. If you're taking notes, you can write it in the top of your page for this talk. What is creativity? And joining me today to dissect this topic is one of my closest friends, one of Horizon's most talented world builders, and someone who came right to mind right away for this specific talk. I'm so honored and would like if everybody could throw up some confetti and welcome to the stage the brilliantly creative Gale Benning. Let's go. Over here, Gale. Over here. Right this way.
Okay.
This way, Gale.
All right. Where?
Perfect.
Okay.
Yeah, the couch here.
All right. All right. Here.
Step onto the creative couch. Gale, welcome, man.
All right. All right. Hello. How's everyone?
Lost. Man.
I did.
Dude, it is so good to see you. It's so good to have you. Man, how are you? Welcome to the creative couch. You're the first guest. How does it feel?
I know. What are we doing here?
Man, we are doing all sorts of stuff. Before I get into all of that, even first of all, I just have to give you your flowers publicly in front of everybody, like before anything else. Man, I don't actually have flowers for you, but like these will be better, I promise. Gale is the type of guy where you won't know all the cool stuff he does unless you either find out about it or ask him to show you. He's so humble, yet one of the most visionary, experimental, and original creators that has ever touched this platform. And I mean that. I wanted to share a story. 2 nights ago, I was walking Gale through the itinerary of tonight, and this guy comes into the world that we're in. And I come to find out later that this guy works for MTV London and hasn't spoken to Gale in 20 years. And they had met up, and when they had spoken, it was only ever over MySpace, and they had never even heard each other's voice.
What's that?
It's
what? Hey, I'm not that old. No, okay.
What is MySpace? I know. Yeah, we're exposing it right now.
Yeah. Well, so to clarify, before you keep going with that, the best part of that experience was the twofold, because this gentleman, his name is Chris Phillips, and he created a show that I helped him on. And yes, we had communicated before, but we had Coda said MySpace, but really it was text only. We'd never spoken or videoed or anything. We didn't have video 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But the best part was Coda's reaction to it. Because I'm just like, hey, how you doing, Chris? You know, you doing the high five? And he never comes in here. I've never seen him before. And he's like, oh, what do you make in here? And like, it was so natural, even though we hadn't spoken in years. And Kota's just like, I am as old as you guys haven't talked to each other. And I'm like,
literally.
and I was like, yeah, that is one huge element of space like this, a medium, a community, is like stuff like that can just come out of the blue. And it's great because now we've made this connection, even though he's in a different state, as we all are across the country, and he and I can benefit from this space and being able to communicate just like we do. And that's such a great thing.
It really is. But it was just how you guys went about it that just had me so like off put about it. Like you guys haven't ever spoken. It was just
I've never spoken to him before.
It's so natural. But also the fact that Gale might not have even brought that up. And for true creatives like Gale, stuff like that is just second nature. They don't even think to tell anybody about it. And so I just wanted to say you're properly creatively motivated. And it just shows in all of the purest ways. And I just had to say that publicly for everyone to know, because that is so respectable, so honorable. And yeah, just flowers to you on that. And if you haven't been to Gale's Worlds, please do yourself a favor and make plans to world hop around his mind. You will not be disappointed. I can't even give context
or
to
come
it,
and meet me and I'll give you a tour.
He will.
That's the best. That's the most fun way to do it.
For sure. So, yeah. That's the way I prefer to do it. Get a personal tour from Gale. If you get so lucky as to get a personal tour from Gale, do not ever turn it down. It is the best. You'll get good entertainment too. Yeah, I was excited to have you on for your talents and your experiences talking about creativity, but also wanted to bring you on for your just amazing personality too.
Thanks,
because
man.
we've been our relationship goes way back to the Iceberg Lounge, man.
The Iceberg Lounge.
Yeah, you're
my speakeasy club. Yeah.
Yep. Tell me just a little bit about your start in Horizon.
Well, like I have met quite a few people that end up getting their headset for Christmas. And so it's like, oh, what year are you? Right. And so for me, I'm one of those 2021 Christmases. And and I came in to hear there was of course all the old school ways of experiencing this place with the older version of venues and like all of that, and it was so innocent, right? And those who are just joining us this Christmas, we have legs and all these other things. We didn't have any of that, and it was just
right.
It was quaint. It was a little bit of quaintness, but there was certainly a lot of earnesty, I'd say, with the people I met. And I was attracted to Horizon from the outside, the things I had seen in advertising when they were doing proper advertising, that it was like, oh, it's a creative thing, and like, I was like, oh, the potential of that medium without even knowing what it was in here. And so I came in and I tootled around a little bit, tried to meet a few people. That was fine. I don't know if I was necessarily in here for the social stuff. I wanted to try out the creativity. I get into the edit mode. I hated it.
Oh, no.
I hated the interface. For whatever reason, it didn't click with my brain right off. For what I don't know why. I mean, I have a little bit of modeling background. I'm a graphic designer in real life. So as far as like visual process, that wasn't foreign to me. But it was, that whatever that hurdle is, that learning curve with the tools in here. And which, of course, now it's been this long and it's second nature to me. But I hated it so much so that I didn't create. So there's a lot of people I know that come in here and they're like, oh, they have trepidation about creating. They don't know, can they do it, whatever. But then they maybe are so scared they don't try or whatever. Well, I like gave it a half earnest try. And I was just like, whatever, this is frustrating. And I was like, fine, let's go out. And it was probably about March, where I finally came back in after going around to other Oculus apps and coming back into Horizon. And one night I had met up with It's None Your Business, um, who I haven't seen in here in a while. But if you know
Yeah.
her, she's a very interesting person and great conversation. And
Second that. Second that.
yeah, and she was like, well, what are you doing here? You know, like, and I was like, well, I don't. I was trying to be creative, but I really didn't like the interface. And she goes, you know, I've been hearing that from other people. And she's like, even though I'm not a big creator, like if you are, you really, I, I don't care. Just you gotta. It's a mindset thing. You just go in there, just sit with the tools for a little bit. And I was like, okay. And and I did. And as it began clicking, what I found in those first few weeks or whatever, that the slow understanding of the tools helped inspire the flashes of inspiration that I might have out in the real life. And
Yep.
I'd be like, "Oh, what if I tried this?" And then I'd go in and I would be able to overcome those hurdles, and so slowly it snowballed, and boom, 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 I had a bunch of worlds in, like, May, um, and was figuring it out. So, that first
Yeah.
world was the Iceberg Lounge. I think, the movie The Batman had come out in that early part of 2022, and that's
Yeah.
a club that's in that movie, and I was like, "Well, that's good to have some outside inspiration. Can it be done in here?" But I did a little twist and made it a speakeasy, which
Yeah.
I have found out that since a lot of people who have run through that place have not understood it was a speakeasy, and they're like, "What is this like little like super dry lounge?" Okay, and they leave when really you need to go through that closet door, and boom, you're in this big
Yeah.
club, which you ended up performing at. Junior
Yep.
ended up performing at,
Yep.
and that's been fun.
Yeah. Very good.
So
And and also I wanted to just like bring up the point of what all encompasses your creativity because I mean people know now kind of you build worlds, right? And if you kind of know Gale before this, if you're here already because and you're watching this because you love Gale and his work, you know what he does. But for the people that don't know what you do, could you kind of give some insight into building worlds and on top of that, what you're working on too?
sure. Well, I think what I started discovering, so I would world hop as we all do, and everyone here can admit sometimes there's repetition, or there's repetition on maybe not the design, but the function of of the world, or the feeling, the vibe of the room, whatever that is. And for me, I just would look around, and this is no offense to any creator, including my own Iceberg Lounge. You know, it's the big, you know, everybody's got to make their club, and I would look around and I go, but we can do anything. Why are we only doing this, you know?
Hmm.
And for me it was like I was motivated by not necessarily knowing what I wanted, but knowing what I didn't want, which was I wanted to do what wasn't being seen. I didn't know what that was. I had to stumble into it, but it's like, man, we can just do whatever. So this is let's go dream state here and just like whatever, you know, open that mind to whatever it needs to be, as long
Yeah.
as I'm following what is potentially either inspiring me or not inspiring me. And so in my whole life, I've definitely been into science fiction, um, and otherworldly thinking and like all this, um, and so I'm naturally drawn to that, and of course this space can totally flourish with that because we don't even need gravity. Okay, so like how can we use that, right?
Right.
And so for me, I discovered that I was like, hmm, I love world building. I'm sorry, I love universe building as a concept, not world building in here, but as a concept, like of course, I'll use a really kind of corny example, but it would be like the MCU. That is a large universe with lots of little stuff going on. Or Star Trek. It has a lot of characters, a lot of different timelines, blah blah blah, blah, but they're like an encompassed emotional experience feeling thing. And I was like, I love doing that. I've done that in my past with other mediums, but like I think things like film, as an example, film creation is all about collaboration and compromise. But sometimes solo building in here, or even smaller crew collaborations, it's so free because there's less compromise, especially in this medium where it's just like, well, just make it happen. I mean, it's over there, do it. And
Right. Yeah.
so for me, I didn't feel any limitation on being like, wait a second, I could do a whole universe of either semi-related worlds or a single narrative view of whatever I wanted. I chose a future place, a future date. I made some characters up, and I started developing a storyline, and I have this narrative that's going on. Now that's all behind the scenes, and that's stuff that I've been working on since 2022 when I kind of fell into this decision to make a universe in here. And I know that there's other creators in here that are following suit with that. You've got Golden Hands and City of Adam, and there are other examples. RJ is doing a much larger universe and all of that. So I'm not stepping on any of that. I'm doing my own thing. And so for me, as I started forming that in my brain, I started seeing these, oh, what about this planet or this landscape? Or what about this city? Or what about this space car?
Yeah.
And I just was like, there's no limit and there's no reason why I can't go over here and build a little bit and go over here and build a little bit and then kind of scoop it all together into one big thing. And so if you were a person right now going out to experience my universe is called Halcyon, which is a real world word. I
Write
didn't
this
make it
down,
up.
y'all. Halcyon. Halcyon.
Yeah, Halcyon. And it's often most commonly used in a phrase of things like of halcyon days past. So it's a remembrance of past days that potentially were better or uh, um, were that retro feeling of whatever. It's also a type of kingfisher bird that is turquoise and pink, which are kind of some of the colors I use a lot in my motifs.
Mm.
And so it just lined up that I was like, well, okay, I'm going to fill in the gaps on why this is calling to me. And so if you were to go look at all of those worlds now, which I don't know, there's like 16 or something like that. Um, they're all pretty much environments, and they don't have those narrative elements included yet because as that all comes together, that'll be pushed out, and it will be a narrative experience you can follow. And it won't necessarily be a video game or something like that. It'll be kind of exploratory experience, and I want to release it in chapters and stuff like that. And but so if you were to describe from the outside, if you were going to not use the word science fiction as to what I do, for
Yeah.
me, it's trying to convey, imbue, and invoke an emotion, whatever that
Yeah.
is. And whatever that, I don't know, it's a weird, balanced, tangible thing,
Right.
intangible thing. It's like you go into a space, visual it has visual elements. I really think that more creators need to utilize sound in here. We do, but like layer it, give me this immersion, and so again, it's one of those things I'm not seeing, so I'm trying to include it. They say that like 70% of your movie going experience is sound.
Mm.
And for here being this headset is so visual, let's kind of augment it a little bit with sound. We can't do the smell, we can do rumbling on our controllers, but
I'm with you,
and
man.
so for
Yeah.
me, all of these little worlds do something for the experiencer.
Yeah.
And at this moment, it doesn't matter. There's no order to anything. You just kind of experience it as a whole.
Yeah.
Um, and as the project moves forward, more and more of that narrative may leak out and until it's finally ready to be released. And I couldn't tell you an ETA on when it'll be done. This is a passion project, and
Yeah.
that's what has to inspire me. So
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And thank you for sharing the details on that. I know the Halcyon project is something that you've been working on for so long, and I've been watching you work on it. I've watched you disappear for times to work at it, and it's just
hmm hmm
I'm just like, oh, he's doing his thing, he's working on it, and it always just overjoys me when I see you in there working on those things. But I just think it's so fascinating when you get into that flow state. I just don't even want to like interrupt. I don't think anyone wants to interrupt. It's just so good. I did want to say for you guys in the crowd too, as he's speaking, this is going to be something that's cycled like method to use from taking information from the guests, because you guys aren't all world builders, I'm guessing, and you might not all be musicians like me, and you might be pursuing different things, but this creativity seminar is for everyone. So I want to encourage you guys to learn metaphorically. And just as you were talking, I was literally thinking of this. And when I say learn metaphorically, meaning you can take something from his advice about building worlds and the experiences that he's learned building worlds and apply it to this movie scene that you're directing or this song that you're working on, just the creative method itself. So don't maybe necessarily look at the technique itself that he's actually using, but um, look at the way that he's doing it, if that kind of makes sense. So not actually what he's doing, unless you are a world builder, then pay attention to that. But also,
sure, or
pay
augment
attention
your
to
own.
to pay attention to the
Well,
technique. So
so you did inquire on like my process, and sometimes I think about
yeah,
that. Some artists don't want to talk about it. I don't care.
I was
It
gonna say
it
you
doesn't
can.
doesn't matter to me. And I think for me, okay, so creativity is often like an iterative iterative process. Like it goes up and down all of those steps that you need, and one of the first steps that I identified for myself, and I have absolutely said this to a few of you in the crowd already, is the word percolation. And
Mm,
like for me, it's really important for my style is I don't like just sitting in edit. I'm not saying, oh, you better just be working all the time. I'm saying that that doesn't it doesn't gain the sparks of inspiration that I think all of us are pulling from our lives outside of here. And or you're pulling from doing world hopping and seeing other things. That's when you're really sparking all of that. And but sometimes you have to let that work its way out. And that's the classic, I get my best ideas in the shower.
right.
That's
Yeah.
totally where you're percolating. It's that saturation, that sleep on it. And so for me, that's the biggest step that I use, but it might not be the first step in that list. So
Yeah.
like you might do for me, this preparation. Um like I was saying, maybe going out to other worlds. And as I did in the beginning, when I was even trying to be inspired, I was like comparing, I was seeing what others were doing, not looking to copy, but looking to make sure I was being inspired to do my thing and not just, oh well shoot, that they're already doing that, which I'm
Yeah.
not saying that's a bad thing. Everyone can do a style of their own similar thing, but for me, I love just it trying to be my thing.
Hmm.
And so you got preparation, you got like percolation, and then there's kind of like this insight part that happens where I don't know, it unlocks. And again, through percolating again, again, I'm going to use the in the shower thing. It's like, aha, you had the
Yeah.
aha, whatever that
Yep.
aha is, and you don't
Yeah.
know when that's coming. You just have to give yourself that time, whatever that is. And sometimes it's sleeping, sometimes it's going, and they say sometimes doing like mundane tasks allows your brain to work in the background more than when
Yeah.
you're just like constantly beating yourself with creative stuff. You're
Yeah.
not giving your brain the other opportunities. And then there's like I don't know. So you start building, and whether you're gray boxing, you're rough drafting, you're rough sculpting if it's a figure or something, and and if you're any sort of creative tendency, uh, or not big-headedness, you're gonna have some self-criticism, and that I think is important. Like, I don't think anybody should just blindly think that it's the best thing in the world, and sometimes, but you gotta balance that. Sometimes I think people are overly critical. Like, there's a lot of
And
people that
yeah, and when you're
I
winning,
enjoy.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. It's like there's that saying, I was just gonna say, not to interrupt, but when you're winning, you're not doing as good as you think you are. When you're losing, you're not doing as bad as you think you are. So same thing
totally.
with that.
Totally. Yeah, like, there's some favorite artists in here that I go and I hang out with, and they're like, "Hey, you wanna see what I'm working on?" And I'm like, "Absolutely. I'm excited. Thank you for the
Yeah.
opportunity." And I go and I look, and as we're landing, like we're in a party or something, as we're landing, they're like, "Well, okay, so don't look over here, I'm still working on it, and this is bad." And I'm
Right.
like,
Right.
"Stop it. Stop. I'm not I know not to judge a painting before it's done." And but there is certain levels of that self-criticism that's important, and met with peer feedback,
Yeah.
and being discerning on who that peer list is, because eh, that you may always find that there's someone who's a yes man, and then there's always someone who's just not quite getting where you're coming from or the angle you're trying to do, and they're
Yep.
criticizing it in unnecessary ways that aren't necessarily helpful for you.
Yeah.
But sometimes you gotta listen to that too. I don't know. There's that is the perception process is very fluid and weird, but sometimes really important. And that's why I love that I I love going and reaching out to my friends and my peers and stuff and saying, "Would you like to see my painting?" And like,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
like trying to, what is their, initial reaction. And sometimes it's so natural they can't help it, and that's the thing I'm picking up on.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
and then after that, so we got the like preparation and the percolation and the insight and what I'm saying perception. Then really it's that tweaking and taking all of that package and doing production, whatever
Yeah.
that is, the building, and sometimes all of those steps are super quick. Sometimes they're super slow, and that's the weird subjective nature of any aspect of medium you're doing in here. Is like, it could be a little sculpture, it could be a little functioning script, or it's an entire world, and it has all of these things, and
Yeah.
it takes you a month, it takes you 3 months, and you're super proud of it, but regardless, you're doing all of those things, and, sometimes, again, I think my favorites of that process are the percolation and the production, and what's funny is those 2 feed each other. Like, sometimes I'll have such a successful whatever it is, imagining of it outside in the real world. And if any of you are creators and long time creators, you're dreaming and pulling cubes out of your hands, right? And so for me, I in my brain, I've almost built the thing already. And so once I get
Yeah.
to production, I'm already past that. But I allowed myself the freedom to have all those other steps without just sitting in edit going, "Okay, what am I doing?" You know, that
Mm,
that's not the fun
okay.
part,
Yeah. 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 The
you know?
process. Just enjoy the
Yeah,
process. Enjoy
absolutely.
the process. Write that down, y'all. Enjoy the process. That's huge. If there's one thing that you could learn early on in your creative career, I think it's enjoy the process, because you will find that creativity is a process in and of itself. That's just
And it
constantly ongoing.
doesn't matter what medium or angle you're doing in the
Right.
creative thing.
It's
It
always
is
going to
a
be a
process.
beast, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah, and the idea with the seminar is so that people can come in on week 1 and talk about what I'm about to ask you, what is creativity, and and all the way get to the end where it's mastering your creativity. But there really is no mastering your creativity, and we'll talk about that.
Never.
But yeah, I'm gonna ask the question, what is creativity? But I'm gonna add a part. What is creativity to you?
Mm.
I know
Well,
it's a tough one, but
it's a stupid, corny question, and I'm gonna say that right back at you. Because if you go on YouTube, like there's so many TED Talks about, so what is creativity? And like this one guy is like, creativity, it requires vulnerability, honesty, and heart. And I'm like, what? I agree, but come on, and so like all of those things are true, but I think it, because like the concept, it's an interesting aspect, because I think creativity can be nurtured from outside, and often is, but sometimes, at least in my own experience, like it came from a personal side, that things like, I don't know, high school didn't promote, but that art class in high school or college even often makes it such this beast that you have to wrangle. And and I think people get really stuck in their heads about, well, what is creativity? I have to fill in that blank the only way that's right. And it's like, like it is anything that is bringing you into that zone. And again, there's so many different mediums of creativity, from the extreme of uh sand painting, acrylics, stuff like that, that like no one ever sees. And there's even artists who burn their work right after they've done it, and because it wasn't about that, to things like filmmaking, where it cannot be personal. Even the director, it doesn't matter. He's got those money executives above him, and so that is like its own animal of like, uh, uh, all of those processes going from script to final, and none of that is wrong. None of it is bad. None of it is scary. By just diving in, and I think that's the hardest part, is that people think that they're gonna be wrong, or they're gonna be judged, or that they have to show others, or that, like, there's certainly a few people out in the audience who are victims of perfectionism. And I
Surely.
believe for me, that's why I kind of there are a few people that call me like the cube master.
Yes,
Like,
the cube master.
because I do
I'm gonna
this
start
technique
calling you
where
that.
there you go, where
That's
I
good.
pull these cubes out, and I know, I'm trying to form a shape, or a volume, or a texture, and I know what it needs to feel like, and
Yeah.
that's all that matters.
Yep.
So how those get arranged, other than perhaps thinking about capacity, but cubes are the best to work with for that.
Mhm.
Um, it just, you can just, like, it's like sculpting, it's like painting. You're just putting it out there, and it's like, I've now filled this volume, it's doing its function, or I can now light it, and now, oh yeah, now it's getting the taste I'm going for. But like, I'm already done with it. I've accepted it for being what it as it came out. Maybe I need to do a little tweaks here. Oh, there's a hole over there. Let's fill that. But
Right.
like, it can become this thing, and I can do it quickly. And be able to then focus on other things that are really important of a piece. And I know all of us, we get stuck in the arrangement of a space, the orientation of things, all of that. And yes, snapping always has its importance, but like that's what's been so interesting is like accepting the weighted importance of snapping things,
Hmm.
bringing all those edges and those seams together nice and tight, and that fluidness of sculpture. And that sometimes those can work together, but sometimes they're apart. They just appear together. So like
Mm.
when I'm doing a face or an alien creature or something, I'm not even beginning to think that it needs to be snapped, and I'm okay with that. But the
Yeah.
process of doing that is a little different. But then if I'm, blocking out a room, well, yeah, heck yeah, my snap's on.
Yeah.
Um,
And for those that don't know,
and
snap tool is so that things can be like precise. I feel like is that a good way of describing the snap tool? It's
Sure,
like
they lock to key points
yeah,
on the object, yeah.
snap tool made this 90-degree angle in the chair here. Flex used the snap tool. Hopefully. Either that or he's just really good. He might be the cube master if he did that without a snap tool.
Oh, bring it on.
Bring it on,
Alright.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, I hear what you're saying. And yeah, and
Oh,
I
so
think
more about
yeah,
sorry,
no,
continue.
no, you're good. I was just gonna add to what you said on like that people make creativity to be this huge thing. And I
Mhm.
feel like people also make the title of being an artist a huge thing too. Like you
Yeah.
have to have a catalog of like so many songs or paintings or worlds or whatever to be an artist, and then you can call yourself an artist. But there's one of my favorite rappers and one of the most creative writers that I know, goes by the name of JID, and he always says, like coming up with the money to pay your bills for the month if you don't have enough income coming in at work, that is creative. That's creativity.
Sure.
And if you can, yeah, just like solving the day-to-day things, finding a different route around traffic, that is creative. It doesn't have to be all in a glass box presented necessarily.
Well, and a perfect example of that is, like, so I have done some more, organic stuff in here. But there was a period where I didn't do any organics because I was being fulfilled with the snapping and the architecture, more of that angle. And it wasn't that I thought I couldn't do it; it's just I hadn't done it in here, so it was like I don't know. And then I tried it,
Right.
and I created these really interesting avatars that people seem to be really gravitating towards. And I created the four armed. Uh, creature from the sci-fi series, and
Yeah.
like I was super proud of that, and none of that was snapping, and that was just placing stuff, but like just trying it, I mean, the stupid Nike logo, just do it, like,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, just try it, and I think when people get all frustrated and they're like, I can't do it, and they throw their controllers down. Um, I mean, that's how you get stick drift,
Right.
but it's just like I said, some of that creative process, allowing it to be iterative and flowing up and down that chart of like people always ask, where do you get your ideas? What are you inspired by? And the stupidest but truthful answer is everything,
Mm,
and keeping my eyes open for what is speaking to me. And
yeah.
and
Yeah.
again, it's sometimes you can recreate things you're inspired by in here, and that's still a legitimate creative process. I did a trilogy in here based on the Netflix series Dark, which is a sci-fi
Mhm.
series. It's
Yeah.
not a spacefaring series, it's a time travel series. And that's some of the most rewarding work I've done in here. Um,
It's very good.
even though thank you, even though it is fan art.
Yeah.
But for me, I always tell people when we go into those worlds that like the main focus for me on that, the foundational was replication and the satisfaction of replicating what I was seeing in the series and bringing it into this medium and being able to control it, and then sharing that in ways that I was displaying for the viewer,
Yeah.
kind of in a cinematic way. And if doing, like, that's what I mean, is like a lot of people are kind of against doing other work like fan art, but like oh Fried Death is so good at doing fan art,
Yeah.
and that's kind of
Yeah.
his thing, whatever.
Mhm.
But he loves it. He enjoys it, and so that's another foundational aspect of all of this, is like
Mhm.
needing to enjoy it. And if
Gotta
you
love
don't
it.
enjoy it, what are you doing? You know?
Write that one down, everybody. Just take 10
And
seconds and write it down. Gotta love it. Passion. Passion drives creativity.
yeah. And you may not, and the so I have met close friends, and I have even people in my family who aren't creative, that are just like, well, I don't know what my passion is. And I'm like, okay, start, just start exploring.
Mhm.
And know that anything you're doing is not wrong. You're just discovering, and that's a process in itself, and enjoy that. There's
Yeah.
no wrong in it.
And it can
Oh,
be
I like
overwhelming or
collecting.
freeing. Yeah, just the way you look at it.
Yeah.
It could overwhelm you
I like
instantly
listening
or
to
free
music.
you. Yeah.
I like knowing history. I like, learning about art. I like reading comic books. I like whatever. And though they can spark stuff, but until you're actually exploring, travel, whatever, until you're actually exploring, you don't know.
Yeah.
And so for me, I'm constantly bringing all of that of myself back into here, and that's what makes it quality content to me, because it's that translation. So,
Yeah. Yeah. And do you feel sometimes like when you get into your creativity, like it's like you get so much into your creative universe that you've built that it feels like it's just you and your universe almost? Like do you ever feel isolated by it?
oh,
This is
well,
my
I
question.
mean, you couldn't have said that more, because I'm the only one that knows the full story of Halcyon. And
Yeah.
like, the main character's name is Alex, and where she goes and comes from and heads to, and time travel and all this other stuff, that like literally I'm isolated unless I spend the time to describe all that to somebody. And so when I'm in one of the Halcyon worlds, and I'm like, oh, there's that feature over there because it does a never mind, you don't know. you know and like,
Right.
it's just a thing, and so, but that's okay. That's okay. It's like I'm the king of my castle as far as that goes. And
Yeah.
but knowing that I want to share with everybody is a fine thing. So yeah.
Yeah. And
But
I
being
mean
in the
as
zone,
yeah. Yeah, being in the
being in
zone.
the zone, being in the zone, you gotta find being in the zone. And
Mhm.
again, you're not gonna find that without knowing what your what that is, of what your creativity is,
Right.
of what your inspirations are.
We have a whole week based on just flow state, you guys. Just a whole
Yeah,
episode on flow state because it's that important. I'm learning more and more about all that, so we'll definitely get into that. But um,
cool.
for this episode, and as people are kind of looking to kick off, I wanted to talk about as well. Um, what like what should you learn the skill set for what you're looking to do first, or should you focus on the creative side first? Like if you're going to step into music, should I learn Ableton and FL Studio and get a keyboard and learn all that first? Or if I'm looking to learn how to build worlds, do I learn Blender and learn how to build in here first? Or what do you recommend to people?
Hmm. I think I think it's working on. Okay. I think first and foremost, as children, the best thing that we can learn is learn how to learn, and then enjoy how to learn.
Yeah,
And
well said.
and so if that is accomplished, which is sometimes harder as the generations pass and tension spans lessen, But if you've got that, I think then learning some of that inward stuff, which is why sometimes artists seem to flourish as they get older a little bit, because they're taking more and more and more experiences with them. Um, but then you've got the really young. I mean, there's so many artists of the 27 Club that it's just like they were born that way. And
Yeah.
and but so for me, it's it's like it's like as young children, we begin to speak with our parents' language, even though we don't know that it's words, written words and structure, but we know how to communicate.
Mm,
So I think with creativity coming out of yourself, it's learning some of that even without defining it so strictly. And as that flourishes, then you can find yourself in software. I've done
right.
Photoshop for I'm a graphic designer for 25 years. I spent years just not yes, figuring out the software, but like figuring out why am I even in this software? Like what am I looking
Yep.
for from this thing? And
Yeah.
so the same goes for in here, which is like uh, and that's why working sometimes I am not a scripter, so sometimes working with a scripter is important for me to allow me to continue stretching some of my creative options because I don't know what are options in scripting, but I could certainly tell you what are options in sculpting and building because of that time spent with the tools. But some of that comes with I want to see a, a swirling, glowing sphere
Yeah.
because it's part of the inspiration flash that I took from the outside. All right. Well, how do I do that? And so by having these I like to have little inspiration projects of just a single flash. And sometimes I'll start with that in the world, whether it's like I have this unpublished forest jungle world, of course made of cubes. And but I in my brain had seen like this narrow path kind of fantasy world, Lord of the Rings, where they're on that long forest path that kind of stretches, right? But the sides come up and there's trees and all that. I just saw a single image and I was like, well, what does it take to make that? I started building just that single image from that single perspective. And then because of this medium, I was able to zoom out. I'm like, oh, well, what if there's a tree over here? Where's the tree over here? And then it started
Yeah.
informing itself, and but so sometimes starting with that spark and trying to figure out how to make that happen at least in this medium, then you start to learn those tools and you start to be able to cross over experiences of like, oh, but see, I took that sphere from that other project. If I did it this way here and modified it that way, there you go.
Right.
You know,
Yeah. I
like
think there's
I
yeah.
published. Sorry, I keep interrupting you.
No, 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 you're good. It's tough with the delay too, because it's like I start talking and then like there's like a delay to it. So we always but yeah, we're doing our best at the delay, you guys. But no, I every time I bring a new person into the metaverse, like and show them a space like this and tell them that it's all made out of cubes, they're like,
Mm-hmm.
"What?" I even have one guy out in the audience right now, who's my friend in real life, and I showed him this world before coming in here to watch it, and he was like, "You guys are making this in like what, like Blender or Unity?" I'm like, "Nope,
Mm-hmm.
nope. This was made with just cubes and and circles and a few mesh shapes." And he's like, "What?" And I think it's because everyone has the same creative tools in here. It all comes down to creativity, and I feel like that's why so many creatives have congregated here, and why I've found so many of the same like-minded people in the space.
Mm-hmm.
That's such a beautiful thing too. But I
Well,
mean,
and that's I think some of the elements of what inspired Proudly Made with Primitives. The
yes, yeah,
PMWP logo you may see around in Horizon,
yeah,
in multiple worlds that are not mine, even though I created that logo. I shared it with anybody who wants it because it's a concept. So uh, some of you are aware that Horizon is also moving in upgrading technology options to some of its members using things like outside importing of created 3D renderers through things like Blender.
Yeah.
And so, but then that's a total creative process outside of here. And that's great. And it affords a whole range of other tools that aren't in here.
Yeah.
But PMWP for me is not an us versus them kind of thing. It's not primitives versus TriMesh. It is maintaining an understanding and appreciation for the certain special time of creating in this medium that cannot be replicated in any other way because you're in these shapes. You're
Yep.
you're as big or small as you need to be. You're floating around, all of that, and even in those I'm gonna say more advanced softwares, you're not having that experience. And but some of the things I love detail. If you go to my worlds, they're either chocked full of this kind of detail or that kind of detail or that emotion or this sense. But especially with physical primitives detailing, which often makes my worlds maybe a little bit smaller, but they're immersive. Um, Sometimes it tends to look now that this new technology is coming in, it tends to look a little bit like, oh, well, this is tri-mesh. No, it's not. You can do that in here. And they go, whoa, I didn't know that. Yes, you can. So
Yeah.
that's definitely why I promote the PMWP. And there's been a few people that have definitely really resonated with that. I know
Me
Joe Bear,
included, bro. I was gonna bring it up,
Coda.
man. I was like, I'm a primitive builder, and honestly, TriMesh has intimidated me and been one of these things that I've been like, I don't know if I want to necessarily step into it because it's such an undertaking. With the other things that I'm doing, I told you guys I'm doing music and other stuff outside of this, so I'm always about trying to maximize it. So if I'm gonna invest so much time into something, I gotta make sure that it's the proper thing. But I've invested so much time into building primitives, and so when you made that and showed that to me, I was just so overjoyed. You might even remember it, but I was
Yeah,
just so happy that you made that logo, and I was of course gonna bring that up because that is one of my favorite things that you did is maintaining that appreciation, and I hope that really sticks around for more primitive people to feel encouraged to continue to do it. Because I know I even thought, should I continue to build primitive worlds? And I think I am actually going
right.
to, because there's something special about this specific way of building that um, that we understand now, but not everybody else has hopped on the bandwagon of even experiencing the stuff that we're doing. And we've had a lot of patience in this platform as creators to hopefully get it there where people can appreciate the stuff that we're doing. I just feel like it's a matter of getting people to understand first, though.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
what do you what do you think on that? How are we gonna spread the word, Gale? How are we gonna get people to understand? You asked me this question actually 2 nights ago,
Yeah,
so I'm firing it back
right.
on you. See if you
Oh,
had any
man.
new unveiling answers
Yeah.
on this, and then we'll go into the Q&A
Y
after this. But
Okay,
yeah,
okay. Yeah, I'm not I don't know other than see, and like I said, it's not primitives versus tri-mesh or us versus them or anything.
yeah,
Even brand new people, I think, should experience both. I think existing creators, a lot of the people in here who have access to tri-mesh and are working on understanding the learning curve of working with things like Blender still should never give up on things like primitives because of the the creative process experience that can be achieved in here. Um, and I th- I don't know. I think some of that actually is on meta because things like, and everyone can agree with me, things like our world menu suck. They suck.
yeah, yeah,
There's not even an art category or, exploration. There's adventure or whatever, but like,
right,
so getting the newer generations to see the to
yeah,
getting new generations to continue to be exposed to what will eventually become the vintage process.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
there can always be an appreciation for that.
Yeah,
And you have the headset, you can do it in here. If you
right.
don't and you want to do the other, it requires a bunch of other things. So if you're here and you want to build, it's open.
Just do it.
Just do it.
um, I'm gonna ask anybody in the crowd if they thought up any questions, and if you did, throw up some confetti. Anybody got a question they want to ask? The if you do have a question and you want to come up and ask one of us a question, the Q&A circle is right down there. If you can see me pointing, the Q&A circle is down there. Y'all don't want to know nothing about us? Oh yeah, let's go. Let's go. Hey.
Gale, can you hear me? I've been on mute for a while, so my
Yes.
is any good. Rough estimate: how many worlds unpublished do you currently have?
How many worlds do I currently have unpublished?
Dang.
You dirty dog. I don't know. Okay, so I would define those as different things because there's stuff like sitting, simmering, ready to be finalized. There's probably
We want a number.
15,
we want a number.
15, 20. I don't know. Like at least 40.
Yeah.
At least.
Yeah.
But I also don't just pop them off for no reason. Like I'm like, I have a thing. I'm gonna do it. Maybe it won't finish, but I'm there.
Perfect. Thank you, Gale. Keep up the good work. Look forward to your next one.
Thank you, Three-Eyed Tiger. Hi, D.
D, you're on mute, D. You're still on mute. You're on mute, D.
Mute.
D.
There we go. Alan said that is a lie. Gilbert has way more than 15. But anyway, one question I do have to ask, and something with creativity goes hand in hand with the building and your artistry as well. But what is one way that you can market yourself outside of your art that lets people know that you have this creativity without, like you said before, feeling like you're plateauing or your art's not good enough, and getting over that hump of feeling like you're confined in your art? How do you get that out there so people understand and see what you have going on?
So how do I get my creativeness outside of here?
Just to anybody, like for marketing, for like what makes you, because you mentioned being very critical of, a lot of artists are critical of themselves, and you do your art for other people to explore and love and enjoy as much as you do. So what is one of the biggest tools, or what can you give advice on producing that out and getting people to actually push their stuff out and not hold it in their pocket?
Yeah. Okay. So what can we do? What can I say to artists that are working on stuff that are holding back because of things like perfectionism or self-criticism and being critical and on all those aspects? Well, and some of that I would say comes back to some of those steps I was talking about. So if you successfully are able to have that flash image of inspiration in yourself of whatever you're trying to create, is that feeling there and weighting it foundationally on that versus that eyeball is not quite perfectly placed. Is it feeling satisfying, and or was the process to get to this point satisfying? And those are things you need to think about. I know that so many people just get so frustrated in that process, but that's the discovery. That's some of the fun. And once you're done, and there are a lot of artists that once they're done with their thing, they just give it away or whatever. I'm not saying everybody do that, but that's because they were more about the journey of discovery, and like that is, so if you can maintain that inside your mind as you're doing it and being like, yeah, this is the feeling, and if you have to keep working on it, but let go of the tweaking to make it just right, because if it's not, everyone will notice. No one will know. No one will know that eye is imperfect.
Yep.
No one. You put it out there, and people are going to see things in it you never even saw, and they're going to be like, this thing inspired me to go on a world tour and discover myself. And you're like, well, I just thought of it in the bathroom. I don't know. But like it was fun, you right?
Yeah.
And so stop being so serious. Why so serious, if we can quote Joe?
Yes. Yeah. Why so serious? And I can speak on that one too. Even I am a guilty person of storing up all of my art and showing it to like a few people and then being like, all right, that was good. And I almost have an opposite problem where I don't know if it's that I think it's like maybe not good enough quite yet, or it needs to be perfected more, or what it is. But I just can't seem to get the art out sometimes. And it's always just like I for me it's about just subconsciously making the decision to just release it, and because I have to. But I get so wrapped up in it where I'm making so much art, making so much that it all kind of gets blurred together, and I'm my only opinion sometimes, and the only opinion I can trust sometimes, where I'm like, okay, I know my art. I'm the only one that can make the right decision about if this is going to be on this album or whatnot. So I'm it's a lot of pressure sometimes, and it gets overwhelming, and sometimes I will talk myself out of a song being good. I've had throwaway songs that I've thought were bad that my friends will come in and are like, dude, this is my favorite song you've ever made. You thought about throwing this away? Like,
right?
What?
Yeah.
So like you just sometimes like don't my main point is don't get desensitized to your own art and know your value at all times, because oftentimes, like, while you can't listen to people's opinions of you if they're hating, you kind of have to listen to people's opinions of you if they're showing love. You know what I'm saying? Because sometimes people are gaslighting and just showing love for whatever. But if you are just a music artist and playing music and they're showing love, that's just, I mean, that's a good sign. You got music. But it took me a long time of figuring out and getting being in a lot of different rooms of people hating and showing love and stuff like that for me to be like, oh my gosh, it's maybe not about all these opinions. Like, maybe I can just creatively get at it. But yeah, like what
I know that I actively made a decision to take a page out of Shahrazad's book. If anybody knows Shahrazad, the creator in here, everything he does, I'm not talking quality. Yes, it's beyond. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it is.
What I'm talking about is his process. His process, he has decided, is almost public, right? So like, as he's taken that opposite step, and he's like, okay, this is a work in progress. This is a whip, and boom, I published it, and I can keep publishing it as I'm working on it. But people get to experience that development, and I appreciate that, and I think that nobody's doing that in here. And so, kind of going on, D making fun of me for having so many worlds still unpublished. I was working so much on Halcyon, and I was working so much on it not being ready, that like I had so much unpublished that people are like, oh, you know, and I'd be off in build mode, and I'd come out out of my cave, and people would be like, "Oh, cool. I didn't know you took a break." And I'm like, "I haven't been taking a break. I've been working. I've been working." And like, but nobody knew it. Nobody knew it because
Yeah.
nothing was published. And so that's why I made an active decision to be like, "Here, I'm going to publish in December." I think I published like 16 worlds, you
Yeah.
know, and they're all a form of whip, but it doesn't matter. None of you know. It's just
Yeah.
it's an experience, an emotional thing. And as I need to update it, it can be updated. And as the narrative for that universe comes together, then maybe they'll be removed and be changed and it'll turn into an order. And I'm in control of that. But more importantly, everybody gets to experience it and
Yeah.
share it, you know, and not just hold it in.
Yeah.
Even though it's not done. And I'm okay with that.
Right. And sometimes if you love something, you need to let it go. Because if you let it go,
Just
it'll
do
come
it.
back if it loves you back. You gotta just hope your creativity loves you back.
Yeah.
And it does. I always say like and I'll use my songs for an example. And this comes back to the passion piece we touched on initially. My songs are my creations. I look at them like my children. They're like and I feel like I almost take care of them as such, and I just look at them so highly as such, and I didn't always, and I do that specifically because I want to maintain the value that they actually carry.
Mhm.
And so it was that's even a part of what I was just talking about. But you really have to love it, and when you love the process of it, when you put love into what you're creating, that's what people are gonna feel. Kendrick Lamar says, he said it one time ever, and it just stuck with me. If you don't feel it, how is anybody else supposed to feel it? And that is the biggest
Sure.
creative tip I've feel like I've ever received. And
Mhm.
something that I sit down every studio session and that pops into my head. If you don't feel it, you know, and I'm like, okay, so you got to feel it. And sometimes in our minds, even when I'm alone, we're so worried about people judging us or people thinking and like you will hinder your creativity. I'll even hinder my creativity by being alone, being scared of what the nothingness around me is going to think of my weird noises as
The
I'm trying
void.
to sing the melody. Yeah, what's the void going to say? Like
Mm.
but it's that like thought in the back of your head that like, nah, bro, don't try to do that, that's corny, like or like just whatever. It's like that inside voice when you're starting out as a creative and you're looking to start this. Just cut the head off the snake and love your creativity and have patience with it initially. That is huge advice that I can give. And feel it, you know, when you're in the sessions and when you're in a flow state, when you're building, feel every piece as you're taking it out and put heart behind it and really and put purpose behind everything, because you know if you try to throw something together, it just doesn't ever turn out the
Mm-mm.
way that you want it to, right? It's always
Mhm.
like, no, I need my time to like properly make it look good, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
And that's different for every intention.
yeah, yeah, no,
Mhm.
absolutely. And I know that you take the time to make sure that everything's good. Every true creative will, it is in their nature. Um, it's not even something that you adopted. It's just something that you have as a part of you. Um, and it's
Yeah.
just a through and through creative thing that's just, yeah, hardwired. Um, do you have any other creative hardwires, do you think?
Mm,
That's kind of an interesting question to explore. Creative heart,
yeah.
like things that you just notice when you're creating, or like things that are always there, things you always do.
I think there's a wide range of what people notice in your work. And
Mm,
if when you're presenting in any form, if you're doing a world tour, if you're showing it out on social medias or whatever, people are going to pick up on what you just said, the imbued emotion that you're putting into it.
yeah,
And even if they can't quite identify it, they feel it. They feel it as a, oh, this is a thing. And there's so much to be said for that. um but like I said, that's why I do the steps I do to try to flower the thing that I'm building is all right, what is the feeling in here, or what is the and that's the other thing is a lot of there's some of the worlds I have, if you go and experience them, they aren't happy go lucky feelings. Oh no, they're not necessarily sad, but they can be like
Right.
unsettling or
Yeah.
eerie or whatever, but it still conveys and you still
Yeah.
feel it. You get in your little goosebumps or whatever.
You
And
almost
it's
feel it
not a
more, I would say.
right. And people are like, "Oh no, I'm gonna get a jump scare. This is a horror world."
Right.
And I'm like, "Nope, nope. I'm sorry. You're actually in your own head here. This
Right.
is what's scaring you." And and I love just trying to make that flow, and
Yeah.
people feel it.
Yeah.
But they also feel it when it's not there, is my point.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a big thing is being around people sometimes, and that's the dangerous part about basing your creative perception of yourself on other people's opinions. Like I
Mhm.
really had a whole phase in my artistry where I was basing my whole artistry and how good I was based on how many people were throwing up confetti or
Right.
whatever, like how many
Yeah.
people are there at the shows showing up, who's turning up, and
Mhm.
I was so disappointed. So disappointed. I'm like, dang, I'm really not that good, huh? I'm like, wait a second, no, I'm just not getting the attention, but it has nothing to do with the art.
Well, so
But
this is a great segue to
yeah,
me saying that that's absolutely the incorrect process, because those who can see through to what you're doing are going to gravitate towards you or work or
yep,
you,
yep,
and that includes myself.
mm-hmm,
So for me, I had the honor of asking you to build and work on the theme song using your real world skills to build the theme song for Halcyon. And
mm-hmm,
if you hadn't have brought some of that, which isn't building necessarily, but it's still that creative process to hear, I would have never experienced that part of you,
yeah,
and then been able to share my story, my goals and stuff, and put it onto your creative shoulders just for that part of the project, and
yeah,
then for what you shine back, it was exactly what was needed.
man,
But had
and
that had yeah.
I wanted to talk about that just a little bit. I know we're not gonna play it. You guys will hear the song eventually. It's called Sight of Love, and it's a song that I worked on for the Halcyon universe. And to this day, it is one of the best songs I have ever recorded. I stand on that statement. That was the thing I told you when I called you and showed you the song for the first
Mhm.
time, and it will forever be the thing that I stand on. And I listen to it all the time. I make so much music. Sometimes you make a song that you put extra effort in or extra heart into, or there's just a certain aligning of the right production, the right time frame, the right mindset. And it's because there's so many factors that you don't think about when you're creating that could influence the creation itself.
Mhm.
And it's good to be aware of those things, but not to be overwhelmed by those things, of course. But I wanted to talk about the Sight of Love process of making that song, because that song, it's your song. I was making it for you. I don't make music for people ever.
Mhm.
So this was like a huge undertaking for me, a huge deal for me, and it's you. So I had to make sure that it was primo. So I sat down in that studio and I sat there for maybe 6, 7, 8 hours. And I don't know, I just like read the script. He sent me the movie script for this and then told me to write the song based on the script and like the storyline. And so I just sat there and meditated with the script for a while, with the production that I had chosen. And I put so many hours of takes and takes and takes into making sure that I feel each take, and
Mhm.
making sure it was exactly what it needed to be so that I had the perfect takes. And there isn't necessarily such a thing as the perfect take, but you can get pretty dang close, and you should. And so I'll do 100 whatever it takes if I need to and get to that. But
Mhm.
I feel like because I put in the extra effort, that song turned out the way it is. And turned out extra special. But when you meditate on an idea like that for a while and you let those ideas kind of just dwell and be around,
Mhm.
your subconscious, more powerful than your conscious, will bring those things in and let them float around. And then it might start dropping them into your conscious when you're not looking. It's sneaky
Yeah,
like that. Um,
absolutely.
until you make the subconscious conscious, it will drive your entire life and you will call it fate. Um, and
There we go.
that's a quote. That's a quote that's not mine. I heard, but but that's exactly what I'm talking about. And perfect example with the Side of Love song too. But it
Well, and
really did
again,
turn out then.
for me, it was approaching you because you had shared your creativity in here, and there was some sort of alignment for me, even though you hadn't created the song yet. And I approached you and I said, "This is a story. This is what This is the feeling. This is the the goal, whatever." And then that's where the interesting part was between the collaboration, which it really almost wasn't, because it was me trusting you, putting that into you, letting you fly or whatever it is, run with
Yep.
it.
Yep.
And you did your creative process with it,
Mm-hmm.
and then brought it back and it aligned, you know?
Yeah.
And but that was because I came to you looking for your addition to it. And
Right.
but it only happened because you brought in your inspirations into here
Right.
and
Yeah.
shared it with everybody.
Back to that point. Yeah. Um. Yeah. It's back to that. Just do it, yo. Like you cannot be scared, especially not in here. If you're trying to make your creative avenue in here, you're in a headset. Yo, this is 10 times the reason less to be scared. I mean, we're in
Mhm.
I'm sitting on the comfort of my couch, you know what I'm saying? I'm hanging out here. That's why I love doing shows and stuff in here. I can hang out in the studios and stuff. It gets a little rowdy. It's not actually dangerous. In all realism, studio sessions in real life might get a little rowdy, and yeah, so metaverse is a good place to be for all that. But um even in the scariest positions that I've been in the metaverse, I've never been too scared. But um the payoff is much higher when you take the risk for your creativity in whatever avenue it might be, whether it be going and talking to that person, or you know reaching out to whatever company, or getting in that instance, or whatever it may be. Take the risk on yourself for your creativity, because you will thank yourself for it. um, and your creativity will too. It's
Yeah,
creativity is an investment. It's something that will grow if you keep investing in it over time, but it's definitely not
it's
going to
true.
prosper overnight. You're not going to wake up rich,
Mm-mm. And it takes
wake up
practice.
creative. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Um, and it's in all of you. Um, there's not a single person that doesn't have the capability to be creative. Um, and like I said, creativity can start by being the things that aren't displayed. It doesn't have to be whole like works of art.
mm,
Just start in your day to day and be creative. Um, even if that being creative is just putting a smile on your face authentically for a day, and figuring out how to do that. I think that's such a powerful form of creativity. And creativity is emotional too. And so if you can learn to start recognizing and understanding emotions and stuff, that will help carry you in. And we're gonna have a whole episode on that too. I'm gonna just put that out there. Uh but yeah. Yeah, no. And so I mean we covered the what is creativity for the most part. I feel like the what is
mhm.
creativity. I feel like we should get like a Webster's dictionary, like like actual like actual definition of creativity. You know, I
Okay.
didn't even write that.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't even write that. This is
No,
like an
well, like
actual
I said,
thing. I'm looking it up
I
on
went and
stage,
found the
y'all.
corny. That's why I went and found that corny definition of it, which
Right.
you know, like has some accuracy to it, but I think everybody's going to be their own thing when it comes to that, and that's why
Yeah.
I look out in the audience alone, and there's so many people being creative that,
Seriously.
you know, but that I wouldn't define any of them the same way.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, man. Well, creativity, according to Merriam-Webster here, the use of the imagination or original ideas, especially in the production of an artistic work. I don't know. That's cool. I'm gonna say my definition of creativity because it's way cooler. Um,
Okay. All right. Yeah.
I mean, that's the dictionary, but this is so I have a quote. It says, "All of the knowledge we have in this life is what we already have, and the rest is merely discoverable." And so the way I define creativity is taking what you have and making something new out of it. And I like to look at creativity as this like energy field of limitless ideas all around us, and we act as like filters when we hone in on certain ideas and their power, and that's how our art is made. And part of stepping into that is realizing what you have available to you, and you're it's like a combination of things you already know and a recognizing of what is merely discoverable as well, and having that as an addition of a stream of constant creativity flowing into your creativity. I'm teaching you guys, keep a consistent cycle and get the friction going. That's how you initiate flow state right there. But
I agree
creativity
with that.
itself is that, yeah. And yeah, with the limitless ideas, do you have any thoughts about that? Like, have you ever looked at it kind of as like just ideas around, or like when you're in your head, I guess is a better question. When you're in your head and you're in the process of putting something together, are you like almost flipping through like a asset library in your mind of ideas you've been like thinking of, or is it
Yeah.
like
Yeah. I mean, I
manifesting as it's
definitely
happening?
no, and that's where that percolation comes in. Is just like
Right.
I get these pings of ideas, and it's like, okay, put a pin in that one, put a pin in that one, put a pin in that one, and then I might start new worlds for all of them, do a little bit on each, and stop, and then get out, do whatever I need to do in my daily life, and let those enter in, and let those exist, and the friction of that creative flow, huh? It just you allow yourself to immerse in your own ideas, allow yourself to immerse in your own enjoyment of visualizing that. And whether you're visualizing exactly how it needs to be done in Horizon, or you're just visualizing the intent of the emotion or the conveyance of what the person's seeing, what you're seeing, or what the experience is, how it's being presented. Sometimes, again, I use the word in here. Sometimes we do worlds slightly more cinematically through the eye of like a film or something like that. And
Yeah.
so that sometimes, having been a filmmaker, that's how I view things. And so it's like, oh, I want the viewer to see it like this, and then they see that, and then they see that, and I'm giving them that order. But I don't
Mhm.
know that unless I'm letting that flow, and often for me, I'm not seeing that while in the edit. I'm seeing that in my brain.
Mm, yeah. So it is almost like premeditated a
Mhm.
little bit.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay.
A little bit, yeah.
Cool. That's good. And like, um, I want to know like a peek into your process. Do you think there's anything outside of your creative process that benefits your creative process?
Music?
Yeah.
Heck
There you
yes.
go. Yeah. Yeah. There you
Music.
go. Amen, bro. Amen.
Lot of artists listen to music, and so sometimes when I'm in edit, either I'm doing one of two things. I'm I'm actually in silence, just listening to the tools make noises, or I've got my earbuds in and I've got the volume turned down in the headset, so I'm not even seeing invites and stuff, and I've got music going, and it can be soundtracks because those are so cinematic, but they're also without lyrics, or sometimes lyrics is fine.
Sure.
And sometimes it's heavy metal, sometimes it's hip hop, sometimes it's whatever, and of course, everybody's familiar with what music they love, and like it's sometimes as simple as that. Putting on that music starts opening up that flow state. Like when we all would have high school homework, I know all of you put music on when you had to do math.
Yeah, true.
That was the only way I got through geometry.
Word. And for somebody who's starting out with their creativity, because this is week 1, somebody could be here tonight and they're wondering, what do I do with creativity? I'm looking to be a creative. And then they get this information and they're like, okay, I need to get ideas. What do they do with their first ideas that come into their head once they play that song and they start flowing?
This might sound a little corny or whatever, but literally a mood board. And I know that is outside of here, but like if you're really trying to like even not be inspired, but even understand the shaping of your idea with the empty space of edit, you can't do that. And so allowing yourself to exist outside of here in that creativeness, and then even once you're in edit and after you've made a collage of what you're thinking of, or literally just bookmarks on in your browser of all these different images, or you get AI to generate some stuff. I know that there are some creators who use AI for their ideas because they're not illustrators or whatever, and that's great. And then they get this output and then like, oh, now I can see the relationship of potentially the shapes, and let me go convert that in Horizon. So allowing yourself, for me, it's in my mind, but some people can't do it in their mind. Then that's fine. Do it outside. Hunt around, find some inspiring things, find things to copy, find things to alter, find things that AI generates, whatever that is, and then start seeing if you can translate it in here. And then as you start translating, you'll get your own inspirations in here.
Yeah.
But turn some music on.
Yeah, turns the music on,
Yeah.
play some Side of Love.
There you go. Yeah.
That one's probably gotten in some build sessions. I know it has for me. I love listening to music. And for me, it's like I'm kind of killing 2 birds at one stone a lot of the time, because I'll come out of a studio session and start building, and then I'm checking mixes while I'm building. But
Totally.
sometimes I get so lost in it though, like when I'm trying to check the mix and then I'm just building and I'm like, oh, I forgot I was supposed to be checking levels of this too. But, just like, I feel like music is almost hypnotizing into the creativity. So I'm glad you brought that one up, because that is such a huge one. And I feel like movies are a big one for me too. I don't know why. Just like I love just like sitting down and watching a movie. For me, obviously, music, of course, is you're always going to be really the most inspired by the things that you are creative in. So, like, you might even be the most inspired by walking into one of Shehrazad's worlds and being like, yo, this is a great builder in the space, and everything's perfect and snapped. And, for me, I'm like, dang, this new, Drake song or whatever. It's like, how did he get the mix like that? What kind of flow is that? Like, or, a new upcoming artist. It's just like not in a comparison type of way, but just in like an inspiration way, where those are the things you should be looking at. So, even and we're talking like people have already kind of figured it out. That's another thing too, is experiment around to figure out your passion. And you could jump around a lot. I was really lucky to have found it really fast. Well, rather it found me. Sometimes it just makes sense. And I consider myself lucky that music found me in a dark time, but sometimes it's not easy for everyone. I've always asked that question to some of my friends that I'm like, oh, you got to be a creative. You got to just start writing thoughts down and stuff. It's like I'm realizing everybody isn't wired
No.
the
Yeah.
same way. It's like creativity finds people at different times in life. People find creativity at different times in life. It's totally different things. So what do you think is the most effective way of experimenting and finding out what you truly love? And how do you know it's the one, like a soulmate?
Man.
Because man, I'm married to music for real.
Okay, so here's a question to you and anybody else, and I can use this as an example because I am probably okay to assume that everybody's listening to music of their enjoyment, whatever that is. And however you discovered that. I don't know. How did you discover that? Did you hear it on the radio? Did you search for it? Was it given to you by a friend? Whatever. But there's stuff when you're listening to music, or maybe I'll use another example, film. You watch a movie. You're like, you're kind of, you're, how do you do that? How do you even know what kind of movie you want to watch? But you find one unexpectedly. You find a song or an album unexpectedly. And the back of your neck hairs come up. And you're like, this is hitting somewhere that I wasn't expecting.
Yeah.
And so that may be hitting some key elements for you that can be the same doorways to even beginning to understand your inspirations. You know, like, why does that particular bass beat really hit for you? You know, or why, why is that camera angle in Amelie just like chef's kiss, right? Like,
Yeah.
you know, grow to understand those things, and you'll understand what your perception is enjoying, and as you can maybe foster some of that angle for yourself, whatever that is, I think it will continue to open up, like, alternate things that might be related, but you didn't know.
Yeah.
Like, so if we all can look around in the room here, you know, like the icons on the walls, the circle with the line, like, that's inspirational. Some people are really drawn to that, or people are really drawn to the big fat lines that are used in this room, you know, and stuff like that. But not everybody's seeing the same thing. But but it's okay that you're just like, ooh, I'm drawn to that. Foster that, you know.
Yeah.
Like, begin to group those things in the music, you know. So like, if you're like, well, I don't know quite what to build, but when I'm listening to this kind of music, it's really inspiring. People say that, and you're like, what do you mean by that? I don't know. They had to discover why it was, or that it was, not why it was, but that it was. And so start grouping all that stuff together and be like, I like this, I like this, I like this, I like this. Ooh, yeah, that's a good sandwich.
Yeah.
You know,
That's a good way of
and
putting
then
it, yeah.
it'll be like a homing beacon for, not necessarily, like I say this often, not necessarily the like thing to that, but it'll be the homing beacon to what isn't that. So everything else is good. So if you're like, this doesn't work over here, I know that, but I don't know where else it goes. But as I'm finding that, it's like it comes into view and it starts to focus, you know,
Yeah.
and it's part of the discovery of it. And you don't always know what that is, but if you can foster some of that, I think
Yeah.
it's an aiding process.
And you can't even put it into words. I know exactly what you're saying. I think that's why it's so
Yeah.
powerful. Is because there's no possible way of putting it into words. It's like describing how coffee smells. Like, you just have to smell it yourself. Like, you can't really put it into a word. It's because it can only be felt. And that's why it's so important, because creativity is all based upon feeling. When you're sharing it, all of the people that are consuming your creativity, it's all based on how they perceive it and how they are enjoying it, and it's like, it's, yeah,
But also how the creator person got to that point
right.
is incredibly individual.
Yeah,
So individual, it's almost individual.
absolutely.
It's for everybody's different.
Yeah,
Everybody's different.
yeah.
So
And beauty is in the eye of the beholder as well.
sure.
That's another big one for this. When you're looking at options of things that you're passionate for, there's not really going to be a way that you can describe it to anyone else, and that is also because beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Like you said, you're going to be the only one that knows the whole story of the Halcyon universe, and that's because you love it the most.
Yeah.
It's your project. And I feel the same way about all sorts of different things that I've worked on too. And I feel like that is such a similar thing, and why so many people are not true creatives, because sometimes it's not all it's cracked up to be. I mean, that's why I asked if it made you feel isolated earlier.
Oh, I see. Yeah, absolutely.
Because it's made me feel isolated before. And sometimes it's like, especially when there's people appreciating it all the time. I have these songs and stuff, and I'll go out and do a show, and people appreciate it, and it's awesome. And then I get right back into the studio alone, where it all started. It's like back to square one in the creating. And that moment of shine lasts 10 minutes, and the song that I made may have lasted 10 hours for that 10 minutes,
Right? Yeah.
And there's just so much work that goes into it. People don't see it. People don't necessarily understand it. And sometimes they can't feel it. And our job as a creative is to evoke the feeling as much as possible. Your job as a creative is to evoke that feeling as much as possible, get people to feel it. Where there is beauty in the eye of the beholder, your goal is to make the beauty in the eye of someone else beholding what you've created. Let them see the beauty that you put in there, and they might see it a totally different way of, they might.
I was going to interrupt you.
Yeah. Go ahead. Please do.
I was going to interrupt you because there's also
Yeah.
the opposite argument, which is it's impossible for them to exactly translate it to themselves. And that's why sometimes as the creative, the person having generated it, brought it out of yourself,
right,
that the appreciation of that process to yourself is most important, because once it lands, it's never going to land how you thought to those viewers. You're going to be like, they're going to notice this thing. Ha ha ha. It's going to be great. Nobody saw it. And you're like, oh, was it not obvious enough? You put all those hours into it, but they weren't there for those hours. And so for me, first, the foundation has to be you have found not solely an enjoyment, but a purpose somehow in that conversion, in that translation.
Yeah.
Once it's out there and people love it, they're gonna love it if you've done your job. But they're gonna love it for their own reasons, and they're gonna come and ask you, and they're gonna be like, "I loved it when you did this thing for that reason." You're gonna be like, "Yeah, yeah, I didn't do it for that, but I'm glad you liked it." And like, but that's it, at that point, it doesn't matter because it's still conveyed.
Yeah.
So
No, for sure. That is so well said. I couldn't have said that better myself. That is great. Yeah, no, I mean, and when we hide things, when I said, like, we learn metaphorically too, like, and it's so important to learn metaphorically, but it's also good to be metaphorical with your art. And this might even spark some ideas. So if you are taking notes, write this part down, is be metaphorical sometimes, because that way of speaking through your art metaphorically, which I do all the time, and it's always the little hidden things. Like, if I'm gonna hide something seriously, like, true to me and emotional in there, I'm gonna put it in one bar of my song, like, it's one lyric, and it's like you gotta like decode it, debunk it. It's a triple entendre. You understand it 3 different ways. Like, it's because I don't necessarily want anybody to actually, but if somebody actually were to read into it, they would be like, oh my gosh, that's genius. Just that one, that little part. So I feel like we as creatives are supposed to kind of put those little Easter eggs in our art here and there. And it's been a thing that we've seen in creators and some of the greatest creators. I know that you have a broad knowledge of just like the pop culture more than me, pop culture stuff, the video games, the old school stuff that is so cool to me that I wish I understood more about. Like they would always have Easter eggs though in those old games, and I always think of, like, I'm thinking in my mind the Ready Player One scene where at the end of the game they're trying to, I don't know if you've seen the movie, but at the end of the movie they're trying to break through the one of the levels in this game, and I forget what the game is actually called. I don't know why I'm spacing it, but the game is basically you're supposed to just wander around in a dark space and find your way through it. That's what everybody thought, that you were supposed to find your way through it, but in all actuality you were supposed to just explore, and that was the whole game of the game. I think that's the name of the game. It wasn't explore, it's like, but you get the point.
I can't remember the name,
like,
but yes.
I know I can't think of the name
that's
either.
what's coming back for me.
That's
what's coming back to. That's why I'm talking about, like, not trying to imagine what people will think of the work, because they're gonna think what they're gonna think. If you've done your job, they're gonna appreciate it, or they're not, but you're gonna invoke something, hopefully what you want, but it may not always work like that. But are you exploring? Are you doing your job? Are you doing the service to yourself, having done what you could, and what felt right, what felt fun, what felt worthy of your time, what felt worthy of your energy? Are you expanding yourself? All of these things. But not writing those things down and saying, all right, check that off, I have explored more. Like, you just have
adventure,
to enjoy
by the
it.
way.
Yeah,
Adventure.
there we
That's
go.
what it is.
Adventure. Okay.
Yeah. But yeah. No, I hear you. And yeah, you nailed it. You nailed it. Nail on the head right there. That's good. Hope y'all got that. You're gonna have to rewatch it on YouTube afterwards. This is gonna be on YouTube afterwards and everything. So thank you to the filmers again. I think we've kind of done our due diligence, Gale. I wanna just leave everybody here with just a quick little, I don't know, quote. I might end all the episodes with this, just because this is something that a lot of my research has just revolved around. But I want to share something I wrote a long time ago, something I read every day as a reminder to myself. And it goes, "You are extraordinarily special, extravagantly made. The world is just a blank canvas without you as the paint. Thank God every day for tribulations and their decay. Your creation would go to waste without you using your pain." And I also wanted to say that next week's guest is RJ the creator. So be here or be square. Go hang out in the plaza if you're not here.
Are you allowed to say what
YouTube.
the subject is?
We're gonna be talking a little bit about flow state with RJ. Okay. Yep. So yeah, when I was saying we got that, when we have that flow state, because we all know RJ is just a really meditative dude, He's gonna love that. No, I really can't wait to have RJ, and I am I'm so excited. I'm so happy with week 1 here. Gale, from the bottom of my heart,
thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming out, man. Seriously, this has been a long time in the making, and like I said, you were the first person that came to mind when I even thought of the whole seminar in and of itself. So thank you for your insight. Thank you for sharing with everyone what you have to say. You're genius. I'm always a fan. You're the best, Gale. Appreciate you, man.
Thank you, man.
And thank you guys all for
right.
being here whole time. This is looking like listen for with the crowd afterwards. Y'all are here the whole time. I appreciate you for real. Everybody that stayed through, everybody watching online. Thank you guys for hearing out what we got to say. We will be back next week with more on creativity here at Nurturing Your Creativity here at The Guardian. Thank you guys.
Hey, what's up? This your boy Teray. CJ Shotman. Your boy Westside. And you chilling with the Breaking Bread podcast. Hey, tune in and check us out every Saturday for some good talk. You already know. Good conversation. Talks. You hear me? Yeah, tune in. Breaking Bread. Breaking Bread.
Yo, what's good? What's good? It's your boy HT. I was saying, no, let's get tripping like a kid, untie his shoes. And you see the vibe and you see the move. Where I'm at, that's the Howard Hour Live to be exact. And you can catch me live on Lux Vision Studios to be exact. So make sure you tune in every Friday night, 11 Central, 12 Eastern, and 9 Pacific. And you know, everybody for somebody. Catch me live on Lux Vision Studio. Let's go.
Awesome. God bless everybody. I'm so glad, amen, that everything is finding you well, and I pray it's finding you well. This is Pastor Johnny live from our sanctuary here in the Metaverse at Word of Grace Meta Church. I want to invite you out to our service here on Sunday nights for worship and the word, now streaming through Lux Vision Studios. So excited about that and what God is doing in this space and place. See you Sunday. God bless you.
Hey, what's going on, y'all? It's your boy Burden the Proof. You're watching Ask the Q Speak Your Truth every Wednesday, 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time, courtesy of Lux Vision Studios. Later.
What's up, y'all? It's MetaClean, and listen, please join me every Tuesday at 10 p.m. for Meta Talks Live. And the awesome thing is, you don't have to leave your house to do it. Meta Talks Live, coming back soon.
Yeah, I didn't even know the thing would close out. That's funny.
Yeah.